comparing the pros and cons of carbon tax versus cap and trade. And the basic finding of the study was that if near-term greenhouse gas reductions were a necessity, carbon tax, a revenue-neutral carbon tax, emphasis on the revenue-neutral part, was better than cap and trade, which would be better than regulations. The arguments were basically that regulations would tend to be sort of insanely wasteful because of their blunt force nature and the huge number of entities that would have to be regulated with their different regulatory requirements. And we pointed out that cap and trade, we did acknowledge that cap and trade, as David pointed out in the abstract, can be the equivalent of a carbon tax. As a biologist, of course, I'd point out in theory you could rearrange the atoms in a zebra to make it a horse instead, but in practice, not so much. So our final conclusion was that cap and trade would likely be gamed to death and turned into a special interest tug-of-war, but a modest revenue-neutral carbon distortionary tax-reducing carbon tax. You notice we're getting a few more sort of preconditions in the hyphens here. Would do at least little harm, maybe a net economic efficiency and externality benefit. So my view then, as I used to tell people, is that a revenue-neutral carbon tax would be like having your fingernails cut really short, cap and trade would be like losing a hand, and regulation would be like losing an arm.